Welcome back to Velshi and Rule 2020.
2020.
That's what it feels like, right?
Yes.
It's extra election coming up. The Democratic presidential candidate, Pete Buttigieg, is out with his first fundraising numbers.
Biggies.
Yeah, he's the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. He tweeted this morning that he raised more than $7 million since launching his exploratory committee in January.
Stunning, since so many people didn't even know this guy's name.
Correct.
Now,
or how to say it.
Compare that to the numbers we have already seen from some of the other very well-known candidates. Beto O'Rourke says he brought in $6.1 million in his first 24 hours as a candidate. Bernie Sanders raised $5.9 million in his first day on the trail. And Senator Elizabeth Warren brought in at least $300,000 on New Year's Eve, which was her first partial day in the race.
However, let's talk a little about Pete Buttigieg. This guy is interesting. Steve Kornacki is joining us now to talk about this. This is a guy who, on paper, has a lot of things that would make him an obvious choice for people. When he comes out and talks, people tend to like him. But he's got a few things that we'll say are having people say, well, maybe not this time around.
Well, I think the interesting thing to me is just he is the mayor of a city, South Bend, Indiana, with a population of 102,000.
Right.
You know, I mean, Lowell, Massachusetts, near where I grew up, is actually bigger than South Bend. We can all think of a city probably bigger than South Bend. So not so far.
I would not have known that Lowell, Massachusetts, it's bigger than South Bend. Would
there you go.
that?
This is why we have
there you
you.
go.
So I definitely would not
let's talk about the mayor of Lowell. No, but so not long ago, I think in sort of modern political history, somebody with that background would get no media attention.
Correct.
would be frozen out. We had the mayor of Irvine, California run 20-something years ago, could not get on the stage with the other candidates. I think one of the things
I believe he got arrested trying to.
He was arrested trying to get on the stage with Bill Clinton and Jerry Brown in New York, dragged down the stairs. This was the treatment that somebody of a similarly sized city received trying to run for president. I think one of the things that you see with Buttigieg, with this money, with starting to register a little bit in the polls, with the media attention is, I think it's especially through social media. Anybody can put a video out there right now, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and if it taps into some kind of, if it connects with some kind of a nerve, it just zips around. Influential people start tweeting it out, putting it up on Facebook. You can attach it to a little link that says, hey, $5, $10 if you like this. And you can start raising real money. And then, you know, media people will notice. You'll start getting on these shows. You'll start getting on podcasts, and one sort of feeds the other. And the next thing you know, you've got credibility as a candidate.
But isn't it more than that? Because we're also living at a time where being the more experienced elder statesman is something that a lot of people are getting knocked for.
Well, there's also that you see connects with a nerve. I think one of those is that idea of do people want an outsider? Do people want somebody who's not connected to the Washington, D.C. establishment? And so to the extent that you've got suddenly the mayor of South Bend, who no one's associated with any of the bickering they see on TV all the time, it might be part of it.
What's his biggest advantages and disadvantages? He calls being a mayor an advantage because he runs something.
Disadvantage, hard last name.
Disadvantage, hard last name. Advantage, Rhodes Scholar. Advantage, military veteran. Gay. Advantage, disadvantage.
It's a first. We're gonna, you're gonna see how that plays out. I think one of the striking things right now is I think that aspect of his biography maybe doesn't get as much attention. Again, in 10, 20 years ago, somebody trying to run, I think that might get more attention relative to the rest of the platform.
Now it's another bullet point.
I think the biggest disadvantage he has long term, and I'm sure he'll take this, he'll sign up for this if this is part of the deal, though, is that he is sort of a blank slate right now. People know what they've seen in these television appearances and these viral video clips. If he really does start getting traction, there's going to be media scrutiny. There's going to be criticism from his opponents. That we haven't seen. That will then enter into the equation.
Okay, a big name opponent, Elizabeth Warren. It's been reported she is struggling to raise money. She recently lost her finance chair, reportedly because she will not go after wealthy donors. So talk through this vortex for us, because that's a selling point for many voters out there, saying they don't want to elect someone who's being controlled by...
It used to be a selling point that you could get big donors.
Correct.
Well, I think both are still going on right now. We've seen the fundraising model in politics has sort of been turned on its head in the last 5, 10 years or so. Again, because I think of viral media in particular. And Elizabeth Warren benefited from this when she first ran for the Senate in Massachusetts. She had one of those viral viral video moments. This is going back 7-8 years ago. Raised a ton of money, small dollar donations from that. You saw Bernie Sanders turn around and do that in 2016. So Warren, in swearing off the big dollar donors, she thought she could build the entire presidential campaign model around that. I think what she's finding out right now is that she is in pretty direct competition with, I think, most notably Sanders for that set of small dollar donors that's going to be attracted to that set of issues, particularly economic issues. And I think right now she's losing out to him. I think her calculation would be, get me on that debate stage, you know, end of June, first Democratic debate. It doesn't, we've seen, it doesn't take much. If you can connect for 60 seconds or 90 seconds in a way that stands out to people as unique, as fresh, as saying something they've wanted to hear but they haven't heard somebody say, you can overnight take in millions of dollars. So I think there's that attitude she probably has and a lot of candidates have. Get me on that stage and let me see if I can have one of those moments.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.